Hi Gemini, thank you for joining me and welcome to my channel. This is your reading for the North Node in Gemini. My name is Varush and this is a reading for you if you are a Sun, Moon, or Rising Gemini. If your North Node is in Gemini, you might want to check this out, or if you're just called to watch, that's fine, you're welcome. Today we're going to talk about the astrology of North Node in Gemini, then we're going to get into the tarot, and I'm going to tell you guys what personality types are going to be emerging in your life over the next year and a half. The North Node entered into Gemini on May 5th. The True Node did, and the Mean Node, which is another calculation for the North Node, will enter into Gemini on June 4th. So we're really in a transition period between North Node in Cancer and North Node in Gemini right now. And let me just explain to you what that means. By the way, I did a dedicated video for North Node in Gemini for the collective. It explains a lot of the astrological concepts, what the North Node is, and so forth. You can catch that at the end of the video. I'll put a click through there and you can go to the video. If you're really new to astrology and tarot, you may want to check out that first and then come back and watch this video. So just scroll to the end of the video and click through to the North Node in Gemini video. You might be very interested by what you learn, and there's a lot of like hands-on examples and I go really slow. So if you're not sure about what we're talking about, you can go learn about that there. Now we're just going to focus on North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sag, so specifically for your sign. So if you're one of those aspects, then the North Node is in your first house. So if you have Sun, Moon, or Rising Gemini, the North Node has entered into your first house in one way or another. The first house has a lot to do with our personality, our sense of self, and so there will be a heightened focus on who you are, both refining it but also pushing it to new directions. So you're going to adopt new ways of doing things. You are going to expand your personality profile, so you are going to be more focused on how you behave, who you are, how you relate to others, and you're going to continue to modify that and adopt new behaviors that are going to make things better for you. So adapt and sort of look at things the way that you're doing now and then do them better. So it's a really, really cool transit when the North Node is in your first house. The second thing to consider is that the South Node, the area that has to do with what you are not sometimes releasing, but more so integrating what the last thing you had been working on, or so think of it as a rear view mirror. So as your car is driving, if you look in the rear view mirror, you see everything kind of leaving behind you, right? So this energy has to do with that kind of dynamic where there's sort of some things that are leaving your life. This could be within this lifetime or past lifetime. The South Node has now entered into your 7th house of partnership. So what that means is that, things and attachments that have to do with partnership, things like, the kinds of relationships you have. If you've had a long-term relationship, did something come up that was a really intense problem for you to overcome that made it hard for you to be close with someone? Was there some, lesson or like a big theme in your life emerging in several relationships? All of these kinds of things, when the South Node is in your 7th house, that will be released, and that will, not fully, not 100%, but that's the time in your life when you will have the opportunity to modify and release patterns that you have with other people in partnerships and improve your dynamics within relationships. So it's a very nice transit. So releasing bad patterns in relationships, maybe hang-ups, fears. Also, the 7th house has to do with open enemies. So if you have like something that you are, afraid of, or if there's something that someone or something that really gives you a hard time, you may learn how to deal with that better with the South Node in your 7th house. So that's all happening right now. The other thing that I want to highlight right now are 3 different time frames that have to do with your transit. So there are 3 different periods of time between now, May 5th, and January 2022 that will give us a heightened experience through this transit. So there will be 3 different periods of time over the next year and a half in which this north node south node axis will be the most active. Okay, so I'd like to tell you guys about that now. The first one, and link it to how it works in your transit. So the first one is, it's actually a 2-parter. So there's actually like 4 or 5, but I don't want to overdo it or give you guys too much because it can be overwhelming. So there's 2 periods of time in which there are more transits next to the north node. The north node is like the moon in the sense that when it's by itself like this, it doesn't have much pull of its own quality. So it doesn't pull in and of itself in the direction you want to go. Let's say you figure out, hey, I want to be like this. It's in your first house. So, hey, I want to be like this. Unless there's a transit here, or unless you have transits here at the end of Gemini, those things that you want to achieve within your personality may be a stretch or difficult to achieve. However, there are 2 time periods in which achieving what you know or which direction you want to go becomes easier, and that is May right now until August 2020 and May and June 2021. That's when the Sun, Mercury, Venus, here's Vesta this year, and the North Node will be together in the same sign, and that's going to give you momentum to get to where you're going. Okay. Likewise, in the South Node is going to be fairly by itself, with the exception of the winter transits in which the Sun and Mercury, and there's going to be eclipses there, are going to transit through that area of your chart. That's going to happen in December, late November this year and next. And that's going to be really great when the eclipses happen in Sag, especially the new moon eclipses. There's one on December 14th this year and December 4th next year. And that's going to in some way initiate new patterns. So on top of the old things that you're sort of phasing out, there's going to be new patterns, new opportunities in love through that time period. So mark down December as a high chance for, progressing in love, beginning something new in love for you. And that's specifically for Gemini. So write it down on your calendar and be excited for that. So just in short, the most active time for this transit is going to be now, May 5th until August 2020. And then also next year, May through June 2021, okay? Plus the eclipses, but we'll get to that separately. Okay, so the second transit that I wanted to highlight for you guys is a tougher one. The reason for this is there's going to be some tough energies putting a hard aspect on the North Node. So first of all, Mars is going to go retrograde in your 11th house in September. That's probably going to bring in friends and social acquaintances with whom you've had problems before, and there's going to be energy that's going to require you to find closure in those relationships, put an end to those relationships. So it's going to take quite a bit of time and attention. Right after that happens, there's going to be a Lilith transit. Here, I'll use my little pointer. There's going to be a Lilith transit entering into Taurus and creating a conjunction with Uranus in your 12th house. That's going to be a pretty tough transit, especially for you, because there's going to be things that are going to be happening behind the scenes, things that you don't know about. So in October, especially mid-October till November, be very, very careful in terms of putting yourself out there, because in your environment you might not be able to see everything that's going on around you. Then this conjunction, Lilith, Uranus, and then when Mars enters into Taurus, all of those planets are going to start forming something called a semi-square. That's a 45-degree angle, and it's about half, it's not about half, it is half of a 90-degree angle. That is a square. That is a hard energy, and it stunts our ability to move forward. So what does Uranus do? Uranus gives us novel solutions, unique solutions to outcomes and problems. When Lilith, Mars, and Uranus are together in the same sign, suddenly there's going to be a bit of a block in terms of going forward with things. So let's say that you know that you want to expand your personality or do something more with your life. Through that time period, you might have circumstances come up that prevent you from exploring that side and slow down your progress with the North Node. That can feel very frustrating. So the main thing to do with this transit is take it slow and don't get frustrated. Know that by January, early February 2021, that energy will wane. And there's also eclipses through that time. So, it's something for you to be mindful of your energy. Don't put yourself out there so much. And with the eclipses, like I told you just a moment ago, you have other things to focus on, like possibilities of new love, those kinds of things, relationships. So maybe take a seat in terms of taking care of your stuff, taking care of where you are going, and then maybe in some way focus on your relationship or focus on what kind of relationship you want. So maybe kind of change what you focus on for those few months. Also, there's going to be the last conjunction in your 8th house. We've talked about this a lot. That was the most intense transit any of us have had in our lifetime, and it just happened to fall in your 8th house of death, change, endings. And I know a lot of Geminis, sun, moon, risings, and you all have had a bit of a gong show go off in your life, one thing after another, obstacle, 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 and you've been holding on for dear life and pushing through. And even with that, there's, obstacles and challenges coming up. But there's also great progress. There's also moving forward through those circumstances. So in the same, in one respect, they're holding you back. In one respect, things are not working out, or maybe things are ending. But in another respect, those things that are ending are setting you free to be more in alignment with what you want. So the outcome of an ending is great progress. And so that's what you've been experiencing as well. So don't think of it as a bad thing. I feel as though this final transit of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in your 8th house at the end of the year will also consolidate and bring closure to whatever endings you've been experiencing, and this will be a huge push forward for you as well. So I would not say that it's a bad transit or something negative, although some people may experience this as an uncomfortable feeling because letting go of things in our life is kind of a hard thing to do. The last transit I want to bring your attention to happens in your 1st house again. Lilith enters into Gemini. That's going to be a tough transit, especially for you guys. That happens in July, late July 2021. She's going to start focusing on conjunctions with your North Node. Be very careful of accusations through that time. Remember when we were talking about Uranus and Lilith in the 12th house, behind the scenes? Things may come to the forefront when Lilith enters into your 1st house, and you might experience some kind of unexpected accusation or some kind of slander, defamation that comes into your life. Now, when Lilith enters into this conjunction with the North Node in your 1st house, you really want to take a step back from participating in any kind of tit for tat, any kind of criticism of other people, or in a position to be criticized yourself. But fortunately for you, Ceres, the goddess of cereal and protection nutrition, is entering into your 1st house with Lilith. So literally the window of like a real chance of something negative happening is July 25th through August 5th. In August, Ceres enters into your 1st house, and that's when you will be protected, and she will be actually with the North Node protecting you from those negative things until the end of the transit at the end of the year. So Ceres has a long retrograde period. She will be in your first house, and really the moment in which you can have someone say something or something negative happen to you or around you about who you are, like slander or defamation, is that July 25th through August 5th window. And if you manage to avoid that, I feel as though someone could accuse you of something, or someone could call you out for something during that time. If you fight back, then you could draw yourself into a very negative situation that could be difficult to resolve. But if you take a step back through that time, and if you just wait till August 5th, that might resolve the whole circumstance for you. So that's what I'm advising, is just to take a step back during that time. And even if it's like justified for you to defend yourself, I would say wait a week and see, because things can change. Ceres can enter into your first house, and she can really resolve those problems for you. Okay, so it's like a friend who's got your back, who clarifies things, or like there's one person who's slandering you, a friend steps up and has your back to defend you. So it's that kind of energy. You will be protected, and don't worry. Okay, so now we're talking about the South Node in terms of tarot. This is the 7th house. We're going to see what happens for you guys in your partnership house over the next year and a half. Okay, so I'm using the John Holland tarot that I love. Okay, so destiny. Ooh, okay, Wheel of Fortune. Something really good is happening. Jupiter was in Sag in 2018 to 2019, right? 2019, sorry, 2018, late 2018 to early 2019. If something happened during that time with someone, be on the lookout for that person, especially if you're single. So if you're trying to figure out with whom you're forming a relationship, there could be that period, late 2018 to early 2019, in which Jupiter was in Sag. Someone may have entered your life. You may have become closer with someone, and this could continue over the next year and a half to develop into some serious relationship. Look, love begins, the Ace of Cups, a new beginning, new love, break for the future. Remember, when I said that South Node release, you will be releasing the partnership house during the summer. That's when it's going to be happening in June. The eclipses for the full moon eclipses in Sag will be in June this year and next year. And so you will be releasing a lot of relationship karma, a lot of relationship drama through that time. And so now that just like a volcano, right? I always use this example. When a volcano erupts, then the soil becomes very fertile with nutrients from the eruption, and then luscious forests grow on top of that. And so just like there's things in your relationship or relationships of the past that have been difficult to manage, just like a volcano. And now that the volcano has erupted, things have happened, and maybe some of you have broken up, or you've moved past those relationships. You've gained lessons, and that South Node transit allows you to integrate those lessons and now move into healthier relationships. Let's see the next message. We have the 5 of Swords, so conflict and defeat. I have a feeling that you have a problem with letting go of relationships too soon. A Gemini's problem oftentimes is not following through with something well enough. So you have great ideas. I'm a Virgo, so I'm speaking from a place of knowing. Virgo and Gemini are two sides of a similar coin. Although Gemini pushes forward where Virgo stays in the details. So you guys are big picture thinkers, whereas Virgos are more focused on details, just as a generic overview, right? So from a Virgo's perspective, if a Virgo was criticizing a Gemini or trying to give you feedback to help you grow, from a Virgo perspective, what we would say to Geminis is that, yes, you reach all these wonderful possibilities and ideas, but you have you fail sometimes to capture the details. You fail to hold back and not keep on moving to the next thing. So you pick off these different ideas without fully developing them, and then they just sort of fall apart on you, or you get interested in something else and you give up on one thing for another. And so it becomes like a very superficial knowledge on certain topics, on certain things. And so in terms of relationships, you may have the propensity to let go of relationships too soon without actually working your way through them. And I'm not throwing shade, I'm telling you to help you. On the other hand, a Gemini could tell a Virgo that you're being too, static. You kind of stick to the same thing too much, and you ruminate in the same thing, and you don't bring in new opportunities often enough. So it's not like one's right, one's wrong. But what this is saying is that you struggle against letting go. You struggle against this propensity, if something's not working, to run away. And look here, there's an opportunity for love. So love's on the line. And then we have choose wisely, right? Choose wisely, the right direction. Constantly feeling like you're going to fail in a relationship. And so you are presented with an opportunity for a relationship, but those old relationship patterns will creep up with the South Node in Sagittarius, sorry. So in your 7th house, you're going to feel once again like and this is great actually. So don't be discouraged by this, like, oh no, I'm going to have relationships that I leave behind too soon or too fast. This is saying that the South Node is working on that area of your life. That means that at this time you have the greatest potential to grow out of it, to grow past it so it doesn't come back again. So yes, you may have a relationship where you really like someone and then you blow them off because of all these things I've described. But then maybe that person wasn't meant for you anyway, but it teaches you a lesson in order to how to savor relationships, how to hold on to relationships better, and how to choose relationships better from the get-go. What are your motivations for choosing to be with someone and that kind of stuff. So it won't ruin anything for you. What it will do is readdress those areas in your life that you really struggle with in partnership. The propensity to move on too quickly. That's a Gemini trait. 6 of Pentacles, marital, material and spiritual prosperity. Marital and spiritual prosperity. So maybe this is also within a relationship. So if you're already within a relationship, maybe you're emotionally kind of backing out of your relationships with people. So maybe you're married and you kind of emotionally distance yourself. And so maybe this will actually teach you to stay emotionally present more. So this is actually saying that you're in a very good relationship with someone, that you're in a, same footing, generosity. This is Moon in Taurus, generosity, like-mindedness, have each other's back. There is a very good energy here. The next message is the Sacrifice card, which is the Hanged Man. Also, you're very impatient. So this is saying patience, patience. Like, you're going to be taught a lot of patience over the next year and a half. You're going to be taught to sort of, your propensity to switch gears on things is faster than sometimes what is better. On the flip side, you can get out of a situation fast. You don't stick around for something to hurt you. So it's not like I'm speaking to your weakness. This is actually a consequence of one of your strengths. So with every strength, there's a weakness. With every weakness, there's a strength, right? So, yeah, switching gears, going off in a new direction. Solar plexus chakra. This is the ego. This has to do with the ego. This has to do with the drives. So it's very hard to overcome these ways of doing things because it's like a Jenga block. You take one block out, the whole thing falls apart. So to reorganize your personality and how you relate to partners is actually a really hard thing to do. And so I have a feeling that you're working through those things, and the way that it's going to motivate you is it's going to ask you, what do you want? And through your desire of wanting to have a stable relationship, it will challenge your propensity to let go of things too soon. so that you may meet somebody who really challenges that. Maybe you really want to run away, but you like them so much, so you fight through it, and it's going to take some time, okay? And then we have the light, which is the sun. So choose wisely. A lot of this has to do with choice. A lot of this has to do with choice of, you know, what you're focusing on, who you choose, and how you will be spending a lot of time thinking about who's who and what's what in your life. And especially the 7th house has to do also with conflict. So when we're talking about this South Node release of conflict in your life, right, with the South Node here with Juno, you'll be also thinking about, like, these are the 7th house is like known enemies, so it's not behind the scenes like Lilith was, like we were talking on the other side about Lilith behind the scenes. This is like people who you know you have issue with. You may have even outright exchanged words with them, and very directly. And so with the South Node release, you in some way will find new ways of managing those people that stress you out, those people that make you feel broken inside. You will find better ways of dealing with it, and so that's such a blessing. You know, so removing conflict is a huge thing. And then the other part is removing that propensity to run away too fast, okay, within relationships, or maybe even within conflict with other people. You know, step in and be a little bit more assertive. Okay, so now let's talk about the North Node, where you're going, because that was all refining the past learning, past experiences. Now let's see where you're going. Okay. So first we have solar plexus. It's all about the ego. Look at this. I would really follow the sun over the next year and a half in your chart and see how it's relating to your different aspects. You may also want to follow Mars to see how it's relating to your different astrological aspects. So this is about who you want to be. So it's like, let's say that you want to become one person or another. Maybe let's say you want to, you know, assert yourself a certain way, be a different person. Maybe you're a little nerdy and you want to be more assertive. Maybe you want to change your life in a different way. You want your life to look different from here on in. This is a transit that's going to help you create that. And it comes from the ego. So let's say that you want to, I don't know, have a certain type of life. You know, and maybe like working out is a part of that, or maybe, I don't know, like if you want to become really smart at something, maybe you have to study and you have to let go of some of your socializing time and study, read books and actually study things and get better. And so these are choices that you will be able to make with this transit to create yourself to be a new person. So literally going from a blonde to a brunette to a redhead, that's just a superficial thing. But maybe there's going to be, like, change your outward reality by changing what you do. So in other words, you want your life to be different. With this transit, you will learn what you need to do to make that difference, to become that person authentically. So it's something that you want. This transit is going to bring you in ways to be able to become it. Then we have the release, the Scorpio card, change and transformation, personal transformation. And it's with humility that you face something and become another version of yourself. You know, you're emerging like a little spring chicken into a new energy. Then we have the Last Judgment. You're going to be making huge decisions about your life and who you are. You have the opportunity over the next year, because ultimately, you know, it's in our choice making. You have the opportunity to go in a different direction if you nurture that which you want to become. But it will include the fact that you will have to make some decisions and choices about how you spend your time, you know, what you focus on and so forth. Then we have the third eye chakra. So this is guided by your intuition and insight. There's like a higher state of being that you have a vision for with the North Node in Gemini for yourself. You see this sense of elevation. You see this higher state of being, transcendence. And I don't mean in the metaphysical plane, I mean here on earth, like become a better person, or the person that you aspire to be more. But that's making personal, actual choices about how your life is and who you are. Here is the next message. We have the Five of Pentacles, feeling alone. So, I mean, struggles of putting yourself out on the limb, maybe distancing yourself from friends to become a different person, because your friends will want you to be like them, which is the old you. And so in some respects, you're going to have to be the new you by yourself for a little bit before everybody else comes along. Here is the next message. We have the throat chakra. First, you speak change into being, right? So as you change, as you modify, you speak your reality into manifestation. So basically, you start asserting, like, maybe let's use a silly example. I don't want to get too personal. Let's say that you're a cat person, right? So everybody knows you're the cat lady, you're the cat person, rah rah, but you secretly want to be a dog person. So in this transit, you start quietly saying, like, I love dogs the most, and not really saying anything about cats, but like reorienting the conversation around you towards dogs. And you start that by talking about it, by sharing with people your thoughts and ideas about it. And that's where it starts. Here is the next message. We have the Seven of Pentacles, awaiting results. So you will make big changes, and then there will be a period of time in which you will wait for those changes to take hold, and in which you will see the positive outcomes. Here is the next message. We have the Hermit card, the Virgo card, but this has to do with your own, like, seeking. I would really recommend you guys go do something out there in the world, like go expand, go have that experience. You know, go when we're able to, once the Rona thing dies down. But even before then, try to have other experiences. So if you want to be a dog person, go to the SPCA and go walk a dog, even if you've never had a dog. You know, maybe in your family everybody had cats, so now you're a cat person, but you kind of feel dogs better. So you go do that thing that you want in some way, and over the next year and a half, that's going to bring that into reality. That's going to bring that into manifestation. And you are going to, in some way, you are going to, in some way, have to wait for some of these things to transpire. You're working through relationship dynamics, and you're working through a new state of being. You can't do both at once. So sometimes one will be more strong. At other times you will be working on the other more. So, okay. So now let's take a look at your personality that's emerging. I'll tell you 4 personality types that are going to emerge for you guys in the next year and a half. Okay. So the first one is the rule maker. Ooh, rule maker. Yeah, rule maker for yourself. Autonomy, independence, you know, breaking apart from what other people want for you. That's been a big theme in this reading. Then we have the optimist. So again, speaking that truth into being, even if your outward life isn't changing as fast as you want. Remember, for this year in 2020, you are going to have a very intense transit with that winter time, October, November, December, because the North Node is in Gemini. That hard aspect is going to hit you the most, like the most intensely. So you have to sort of still live your life, go and grow. You will grow a lot this year, but you also have to realize that at the end of the year, this aspect is going to create some types of obstacles for you. You are going to get through it, but you need to remain optimistic and hopeful, and those things are going to work out. The next message is we have the resistor, okay? So there's going to be people around you who resist you. There's going to be people around you who resist what you're about, and I think that's probably an aspect of you resisting yourself too. And so making bold decisions and making big leaps and bounds is going to be to your favor, with the exception of October, November, and December this year. You're going to really want to push the envelope, and you'll see also within yourself how you hold yourself back. When things don't change immediately, maybe you will in some way see how you are contributing with your expectation for immediate gratification instead of waiting for an outcome in a longer period of time. Here is the next message. We have the teenager. The teenager. So you're in that phase of about to step out into the world. The North Node in your first house is very much about that, isn't it? It's all about like coming of age, because it's in your personality, reforming your primary relationships. This wants to be seen. So the Shadow King. Maybe you're releasing something from the past to do with a bad relationship, or a relationship with someone who was kind of like the shadow of things, and now you're blossoming into the light and going in a better direction. So I wish you guys all the best. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. And yeah, I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye.